Tonight on Joy News Prime, Speaker of Parliament clashes with the presidency over a slash in the 2021 budgetary request of the legislature and judiciary.
At the end of the day, come and inform us as to the negotiated figure, not the ceiling that has been given by the president. If you do otherwise, I, as your speaker, will not attend any letter of submission to the president.
Meanwhile, debate on the budget has started on the floor, with the minority also making its own demands. In business, a fully recovered finance minister designate Ken Ofori-Atta is justifying the fresh tax measures in the budget, saying they are needed for economic stability.
So if you look at the taxes, for example, we do have issues of sanitation and the Delta Fund for energy, and those have to be tackled. And so the petroleum taxes are supposed to help contribute towards that. Then we have the 1% on VAT, which essentially is looking at making sure that we're able to pay for the vaccines.
La youth insists on reclaiming 250-acre land near Burma Camp. They say it's been unlawfully occupied by the Ghana Armed Forces.
Today, we are saying that the La Township has expanded and grown, and all we want is that we need to open up our space and come to this portion of our land. Military is preventing us.
And Central Region Minister promises to improve safety at beaches in the region as victims of the Palm Beach drowning tragedy are interred. My name is Israel Lai, and Joy News Prime is coming to you live from our fan of our studios at Kokomlemle here in Accra on your digital terrestrial TV, because we are free to air, and also on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. This is the home of independent, fearless, credible, and impactful journalism. Do stay tuned in. So our very first story focuses on the Speaker of Parliament, who is vowing to resist any attempt by the President to slash the funding amount requested by the legislature and judiciary in the 2021 budget. The Speaker, Alban Bagbin, first raised the issue with the caretaker Finance Minister, Osechi Mensah-Bonsu, and the Vice President during the presentation of the 2021 budget last Friday, when he stated that any slash in the budget estimates for the two institutions will not be tolerated. The President's Executive Secretary, Nana Santi-Bediatu, in a letter to the Speaker, however, announced that the two arms of government would have their budgets slashed by nearly 200 million cedis, citing current economic challenges. The President's letter was read on the floor Tuesday.
In accordance with Section 15A of the Parliamentary Service Act 1993 at 460 as amended, I submit herewith recommendations of the President of the Republic on the proposed estimates of expenditure for Parliament. The estimates of expenditure for Parliament and the Parliamentary Service are stated as follows. And in that, they reduce our estimates by 119,846,911. And they continue. In view of the reduced fiscal space in the national budget, as a result of statutory and debt service obligations, we cannot accommodate the request by Parliament. We kindly suggest that Parliament and the Parliamentary Service operate within this new budget, while we explore opportunities to increase the allocation in subsequent years when revenues improve and debt has stabilized. Accordingly, Parliament is respectfully requested to keep the estimates of the Parliament and the Parliamentary Service within the expenditure ceiling provided above. This will enable government to contain expenditures within the overall fiscal space for 2021. It should, however, be noted that the ceilings provided for Parliament and the Parliamentary Service satisfy Section 15A of the Parliamentary Service Act 1993 at 460 as amended. Please accept the President's best wishes. Nana Bediatu Asante, Secretary to the President. and to the Right Honourable Speaker of Parliament, Parliament House, Accra. In view of the agency of this matter, since we are the final determinants of the budgets for all the arms and sectors in the country, I had to quickly respond.
Well, the Speaker has since replied in a letter he says has already been dispatched to the Presidency, indicating the Constitution bars the Executive from revising estimates presented by the Judiciary and the Legislature, since they are all equal arms of government. Mr. Babgeng also warned the committees considering the estimates against approving the slashed budgets, adding he will not forward the appropriation bill to the President for his assent until the disagreement is resolved.
The budgets is not for the executive. We have the final power to approve or disapprove. And so what the Constitution has done is for them to make recommendations and to negotiate during the deliberations of the budget before the House. It is not for the executive to impose ceilings on the judiciary or Parliament. We have to do the proper thing. And so during the consideration of the estimates, honorable members, particularly the committees concerned, take that on board. At the end of the day, come and inform us as to the negotiated figure, not the ceiling that has been given by the President. That is not the intent of the 1992 Constitution. If you do otherwise, I, as your Speaker, will not append any letter for submission to the President for his assent. I mean what I say. The weakest link in our democracy is Parliament. And because of that, we are not able to control things like corruption. We are not able to hold the executive to account. We are not able to get the rule of law going. We are the arm to leave that. And so far as I remember the Speaker of this House, I will insist that the right thing be done.
Well, the minority in Parliament has meanwhile vowed to reject the 2021 budget if government fails to accurately state the country's fiscal deficit. Spokesperson on the Finance Committee, Dr. Ato Forsing, alleges that government has in the past misreported the country's fiscal deficit, citing the exclusion of about 9.8 billion Ghana cedis in 2018, a situation he believes has contributed to the economic mess. Contributing to the budget statement on the floor of the House, he argued government cannot blame the wobbling economy on the COVID-19 pandemic.
That is not the case, Mr. Speaker. The situation of misreporting actually started back in 2008. Mr. Speaker, now I prove this. Mr. Speaker, I prove this in the sense that, Mr. Speaker, an amount of 9.8 billion Ghana cedis was excluded from the fiscal. Mr. Speaker, this was excluded from the Speaker, Mr. Speaker, and the IMF document here confirms this. Mr. Speaker, if you have the IMF Article 4 document, April 2020, Mr. Speaker, contrary to what our Minister responsible for Finance informed us, the IMF says that in the year 2018, our deficit was 7%, and certainly not 3.9% of GDP. Mr. Speaker, clearly you could see that the part is increasing and not actually reducing, as we've been told by the budget statement. Mr. Speaker, again, if you are to track the year 2019, you will notice that, as we've been told, that the Minister informed this House that the fiscal deficit was 4.8% of GDP. If you are to express it in nominal terms, it means that we spent more than we could raise by an amount of 16.89 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, what this means is that we added 16.8 billion Ghana cedis to our public debt. Mr. Speaker, once again, this has proven not to be the case. Mr. Speaker, again, this has been corroborated by the IMF Article 4 document. Mr. Speaker, my worry is that an amount of 5.1 billion Ghana cedis was excluded from the fiscal. Mr. Speaker, I want to put on record that for us, we members of Parliament of this side of the House, we to send a strong message to the Minister responsible for Finance and the Ministry of Finance that until these anomalies are corrected, we will not be part of the passage of this budget statement. Mr. Speaker, these are critical issues. These are critical issues because, Mr. Speaker, this is the way that you will be able to track the debt accumulation.
But Information Minister Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah, who moved the motion for the debate, insisted government needs to raise revenue to achieve its economic recovery program. He also indicated that to achieve President Akufo-Addo's dream of making Accra the cleanest city in Africa, it will be prudent to pay a little extra in that regard.
Right, Honorable Speaker, to do all of these things without worsening our deficit position or our debt position currently, it is important that the administration introduces some revenue measures to support it to do so. I want to quickly refer to Article 36, 2C of the Constitution. And with your permission, I'll read as we connect the policy underpinnings to our imperatives. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution says, the state shall, in particular, take all necessary steps to establish a sound and healthy economy whose underlying principles shall include ensuring that individuals and the private sector bear their fair share of social and national responsibilities, including responsibilities to contribute to the overall development of the country. Mr. Speaker, we are at that point where every Ghanaian has to chip in a little so that we're able to recover and fulfill our objectives. Government has introduced the sanitation and pollution levy and a 5% profit before tax for the financial sector recovery program. Mr. Speaker, it is our expectation that these are revenue measures that this House will support because they contribute significantly to ensuring that what appears to be a high revenue target this year can be met, and that revenue coming together with the other resources of the state can now help us, as we mentioned earlier, to recover from the challenges of the pandemic and to invest in the things that will bring about the growth and the jobs and the income that our people look for. Right, Honorable Speaker, this administration, also being a sensitive administration, has not only introduced revenue measures, but has also introduced a number of reliefs aimed at easing the burden on various sectors of the economy.
All right, so that debate is still ongoing in Parliament, and joining us right now is correspondent Kwesi Parker-Wilson. Hello, Parker. So I can understand the debate has been going on for a while now, and it's going to go on for a while longer. But where are we in the debate at the moment, or what else has come up in the debate?
Well, so what has come up is about how government managed the banking sector crisis, with the minority believe that that was poorly managed and also has contributed to the mess we are currently going through. The majority on the other side consistently across board, I mean, all the members of the majority side who have contributed to the debates this evening have insisted that the NPP government is the government that has revived the economy and has taken it on a sound footing, considering what the NDC administration did at the time. The deputy majority leader, Afenyo Makin, shortly after Dr. Kisela Tufosun spoke, indicated that, well, he at Tufosun should equally share some of the blame because he was a deputy finance minister at the time. And so if he's claiming that the country is currently on its knees in terms of our economy, then the John Mahama administration, which he was a part of it, should equally take the blame. But he's convinced, that is a fair marking, that the NPP government has indeed made the economy better. And that is why they christened the budget where you were here, meaning we are moving forward. So for them, they have consistently talked about them being the best managers of the public purse and the economy. Whereas the minority side, in fact, John Jinapor, when he was speaking, said that they were going to haul the Bank of Ghana boss before the House, basically because of his involvement in the banking sector cleanup. Eric Opoku, the member of parliament as well for Isnafo South, made the point about agric and the fact that ever since the NPP administration took over, the agric sector has seen some sharp decline, and the all the talk about the planting for food and jobs has not really yielded much result and has not contributed meaningfully or significantly to the economy. And so the fiscal deficit has been the central conversation for today's debate.
All right, and one other thing that has come up in Parliament today is what you can say is a veiled threat from the Speaker to the presidency that the presidency would have to approve the budgetary request that it has put through, as well as that of the judiciary. What has been the posturing, or has there been any reaction from the majority?
Yeah, there's a reaction, but Israel, you recall that when the Speaker was helping the new members of Parliament go through the orientation, he was clear in his mind that his leadership or Parliament will not be a footnote to the executive. And so he consistently has made the point that this is the time for Parliament to really realize itself and take a rightful position in terms of governance. Because Parliament is not an agency or a ministry, but rather an arm of government, and so must be accorded the needed respect. Now, before we commence the business of the day, that is the debate, he read the official communication which he talked about, that yes, the president has sent a communication to the House indicating that they have slashed their budgets. I'm talking about Parliament and that of the judiciary as well. But Israel, you remember that last Friday, shortly after the majority leader presented the budget to the House, the Speaker asked him to inform the President that at least they should make sure that the allocation given to Parliament is the best or has been increased, because consistently he's seen some reduction there. And so the letter by Asante Bediatio, which the Speaker of Parliament read, was actually a response to the request he made. Now, after reading the communication, which has stated that because of COVID-19 pandemic, they cannot grant the request by the House. And for that reason, the allocation has been slashed. The Speaker said he wouldn't entertain that. And as a matter of fact, he's asked the committee in charge of that to go back and review it. Now, his argument is that the President or the presidency does not have the power to review the budget allocation for members of Parliament and also the legislature, the judiciary. He quoted an article to back that argument. And so he's asking the committee members that they have the right and the power to review or a revision of the allocation. So they should go and do that and come back to report to him. If they fail to do that, he would not submit the usual report to the president that the House has approved the budget. And so that letter has been sent to the Jubilee House. We expect a response from the presidency. And let me say that the letter, as we received, was signed by the executive secretary to the president, Asante Bediatio, communicating to the House that they have slashed their budget allocation and that of the judiciary as well. So that is what happened. Now, with the majority, they didn't really have much to say. Osache Mensah at the time was a bit lost in the conversation because he didn't understand what was going on. And the point the member of Parliament for South Tongue constituency, someone Lokujata Blaka made was that, well, at the time he was all soaked in being a finance minister, so he didn't really listen to the Speaker. But the Speaker gave a directive, and that is why they are here today. They're talking about that. So they said that, well, they're taking that in their strides, and they'll communicate that to the presidency. The minority leader, Haruna Iddrisu, actually commended the Speaker for taking a bold and a firm decision to defend Parliament. He believes that with this kind of leadership, definitely Parliament will take a rightful position as we go forward.
All right, thank you very much, Kwesi Parker Wilson, bringing us that update from Parliament. You're watching Joy News Prime, and as and when we will be going back to the floor to listen in to the debate that's ongoing, but also in the bulletin, there's growing tension between indigents of La and the Ghana Armed Forces over a 250-acre land occupied by the military near Burma Camp. The indigents accuse the military of unlawfully occupying the land, which they say was released to them by government. in December last year and want the state to hand over documentation of the land to the stool along with authorization to reclaim the land. Faustina Safo has been following the story and filed this report.
Sounds of some angry youth of La registering their displeasure over what they describe as a military invasion of their lands, holding placards with inscriptions, "Military thieves, give us back our lands," among others. They marched from the La Traditional Council to the newly constructed La Military Cemetery at Bema Camp. The gods of the land were then invoked to punish those unlawfully taking their lands. The coalition of La Association, the umbrella body of youth groups there, say the parcel of land in contention was leased to the government in 1953 to serve as Gafford camp for soldiers after the World War. The lease they claim expired in 1963, but to date, the military has failed to give them back their lands. Jeffrey Tete is spokesperson for the group.
We have realized that the military on their own have now extended, and they keep extending the portions of land that was given to them. They were given just 23.7 acres. Now look at what they have taken. It's beyond 6,000 acres. Military has now sold some of the lands when they are not supposed to be dealing in land. They are supposed to be utilizing it for the purpose of military. Okay, so today we are saying that the La Township has expanded and grown, and all we want is that we need to open up our space and come to this portion of our land. Military is preventing us, and for your information, this particular portion of land that you see has not actually been acquired. What happened was that they proposed to acquire, so there are documents which says that proposed acquisition, but the acquisition has not been done. So why are the military forcing and trying to take it by force? Now what they have done is that they have brutalized our farmers, they have beaten our kinsmen, they have done a whole lot of illegality against us. We know the military to be a disciplined institution. Now military has become so indisciplined that even when the government speaks, they don't want to listen to the same government that is directing them. So what are we saying? Now you can imagine, all from here down to La Boma Beach to the Southern Command, those lands are for the La people. Military say they are not going to allow the La people to occupy and possess their land. Where in this world will you see this happening?
They want government to hand over documentation of the land to the stool, coupled with an authorization to reclaim the lands.
The promise that was made on 27th of November, that this land has been given to the people of La, they should append their signature to the document, grant all documentation to the stool, to the occupants of the stool, that's the traditional council and all those people, so that the people of La will be able to benefit from their heritage. Otherwise, like we have done today, we have invoked the gods, the 99 gods of La. We have invoked them so that they will take action. And we know the Almighty God is also solidly behind us.
They claim the Lands Commission is in bed with the military, given the military false documents of ownership. The angry youth then stormed the Lands Commission, demanding an audience with the Lands Minister, who was on a working visit. Soon, the police were invited. They tried reasoning with the leaders of the group, to no avail. Finally, the Lands Minister came out, assuring leaders of the group their concerns will be addressed.
Little did I know that I'll be accosted the way you've accosted me. But what I can say to you is that let us all exercise restraint, let us all be patient, and let us all act in accordance with the law, and let us all respect public order in our country. And the assurance I can give to you and to the chiefs and to the people of Greater Accra and to the people of La and the Ga community in Greater Accra is that the president said it before the elections, and is very committed to ensure that these age-old, difficult, controversial issues of land administration in Accra are dealt with substantially, and we intend to do that.
A promise leadership of the coalition holds dear. For now, they leave chanting songs of hope. Faustina Safo for Joe News.
Director of Public Prosecutions Yvonne Atakra Obobisa has revealed criminals are sometimes set free by Ghana's courts because they're able to falsify records of proceedings and use them as evidence to file appeals. These records, she revealed, are signed by court officials, making them appear legitimate. She made this revelation in a meeting between officials of the Attorney General's office and the Chief Justice.
We have realized that there are a few problems. One has to do with fictitious records. So we have a number of appeals where we have realized that you have certified true copies. They have been certified, but the records are false. Then there is also the uncoordinated manner in which the appeals are heard. So, and it is both the Judicial Service and our office. So you have a matter which is heard in Accra, the Court of Appeal sitting here. That same, the appeal is dismissed. The appellant then moves to the Court of Appeal in Koforidua, or yes, in the Eastern Region or in Tamale. Another Court of Appeal, differently constituted, is served with another record. Meanwhile, the matter has been heard here. Our office is also not coordinated enough to realize that this matter has been heard. In a particular case, there is an armed robber who, on 3 different occasions, came with fictitious records. On the first occasion, he was convicted, brought in records, and the records were such that when the judges see the records, they will acquit. Because he says that he was just in a taxi, the taxi got to the destination, he got out, the taxi driver just started shouting, "Thief, thief, thief." People came and beat him. Any judge seeing this would say, but who convicted him? So it was the state attorney who got the same record for the 3rd time, who said, but this seems too strange. Which judge will convict on these facts? So she herself drove to Tema to go and verify. She found out the name of the judge was forged, the records, everything was forged. She informed the court. The judge then enhanced the sentence. When the sentence was enhanced to 40 years, he then moved to Koforidua.
Chief Justice Ani Nyebua wants the AG's office to provide details of such occurrences to his office to enable a probe and imposition of sanctions on his officers who assist in such falsification of records.
You try and let us hear for us to take remedial measures, because if we are not very careful, it will certainly be perpetuated as if we are impliedly endorsing it. Yes, when we had no knowledge at all. So please, it's a passionate appeal from me as the Chief Justice. If any fictitious record, is detected in criminal proceedings, please, you let us know, and we will trace it to the registry and deal with the registrar. Yes, because so far as when immediately it is certified, it comes with a signature. Yes, it comes with the signature of the registrar. Yes, who certified it. So the AG's office can also help us and address this problem, because it is a canker which should not be allowed to grow. It's a very, very serious.
You're watching Joy News Prime. We're going over to Parliament House now, where, as I indicated earlier, the MPs are debating the 2021 budget statement. Currently on the floor is MP Carlos Ayenkra.
Flagship project that we embarked on when we entered 2017. The Speaker, out of the 260 districts in Ghana, at least 148 of these districts have seen a one district, one factory being cited in their district. We're left with only 112, which I am sure that if the Obatampa project takes off, those districts which did not get any interest from sponsors would see the government coming in to put industries and later transfer to the citizens of that area. The Speaker, this 148 companies or factories that have been cited, there are about they sum up to 232, out of which 76 is currently in operation. The rest are in various stages of construction or development. The Speaker, the 76 that is in operation is employing over 139,000 people as we speak. So just imagine, if the MPP government had not instituted this industrial transformation agenda, 139 people will still be staying at home jobless. Today we have managed,
by transforming our economy through industrialization, we have managed to employ 139,000 people, plus people. And as I speak, if the rest of the companies come on stream, the rest of the 232 come on stream, we are expecting to have another 285,000 plus people getting work in Ghana. So if this is not propelling the economy of this country, then I don't know what can actually help us.
You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break here on the bulletin. But still ahead in the bulletin, Central Region Minister promises to improve safety at beaches in the region as victims of the Palm Beach drowning tragedy are interred. And then later in business, a fully recovered Finance Minister designate Ken Ofori-Atta is justifying the fresh tax measures in the budget, saying they are needed for economic stability. Stay tuned in, we'll be back in a bit.
Hello, good evening and welcome to Business. I'm Charles Aite. Now, the Finance Minister designate, Ken Ofori-Atta, has justified the fresh tax measures outlined in the 2021 budget. The government has been criticized about the levies announced in the budget, but speaking at a virtual PwC post-2021 budget forum, Mr. Ofori-Atta insisted that taxes are needed to quickly improve on the revenue collection and stabilize the economy in the short term.
So if you look at the taxes, for example, we do have issues of sanitation and the Delta Fund for energy, and those have to be tackled. And so the petroleum taxes are supposed to help contribute towards that. Then we have the 1% on VAT, which essentially is looking at making sure that we're able to pay for the vaccines and get our people working so we don't have lockdowns and other things such as Agenda 111 so that our infrastructure for healthcare will be a lot more robust. The financial sector also, there's a tax there, which really, in a sense, is saying, you know, all of these associations that somehow have an impact on revenue collection, there has to be a collective responsibility on that. And we have seen the robustness of the sector over the past 4 years or 3 years, and therefore roping them in on their part as a shared burden philosophy. In terms of the way forward, so that at the end of the day, we all as a people recognize the enormity of the problem that we have, certain rigidities. But for us at the ministry, also telling if there are leakages in the petroleum sector, OMCs, who is it that is doing it? Because you know it more than I do. You know, can we form, a group to make sure that those things cease, and it's not the responsibility of government, but it's the responsibility of all of us, you know, as a people, you know. So the financial services sector, in like manner, we watched as, you know, people broke the rules. But these associations should be strong enough and have the moral authority to begin to say that this affects our bottom line, and let's together, you know, work at this. So really, I know there'll be issues about efficiencies and etc. But we are also, you know, the pace at which we are going with digitalization. I think if we have these numbers at the right places, then really within 2 or so odd years, we should be able to move our revenue to GDP to the 20% that we want because of digitalization, etc., etc.
And that's a fully recovered Finance Minister designate Ken Ofori-Atta speaking at the PwC post-2021 budget forum. He's also been on medical leave in the U.S. following complications from COVID. He attributed his recovery to God and prayers from Ghanaians. But of course, we shall be having various sides of response to what he's just stated in our subsequent bulletins. You may want to stay tuned for that. But still on the budget, according to the budget statement, the government is seeking to raise about 72 billion cedis in taxes and grants. However, there are fears that the country will struggle to meet the target as businesses are still struggling to recover from the shocks of the global pandemic, COVID-19. Charles Eduboahin is President's Special Representative at the Finance Ministry. He's positive that the revenue target will be achieved.
What we've tried to do is juxtapose consolidation or fiscal prudence or discipline against stimulus, because you need the stimulus to be able to lift yourself out of essentially a recession, which is what we find ourselves in. But at the same time, you have a situation where you have elevated debt levels, and you have, because you had to borrow so much last year, that you also you can't afford to spend excessively. So the challenge is to identify real growth areas, oriented areas, and target your investments, which is what we are trying to do through the Ghana Cares program, and also try and bring the private sector along. And that's why, if it's a 100 billion package, we are asking the private sector to support with foreign direct investments and their investments into this opportunity for up to the tune of 70 billion, and government to come up with a 30 billion. So it is a shared partnership. It is a way for us to be able to, pull the economy out of a recession with a fiscal stimulus, but really target on growth areas. Something like real estate, housing, construction really creates a lot of jobs, creates a lot of activity, is infrastructure oriented, and that is an area that we really want to support. We're setting up the development bank. We'll capitalize the development bank. The development bank will in turn identify and support businesses with cheaper loans, like any other big development bank you see, like IFC and so forth, who are able to borrow at AAA rated levels and lend at much cheaper rates than you see your typical commercial banks lending at. So these are some of the areas that we believe that if we can invest in, we can provide the stimulus to lift this economy back out, and the productivity will be there. But first and foremost, we have to address the health issue. And we address the health issue by making sure everybody has been vaccinated. If you don't get vaccinated, you can't get back to work. This pandemic won't go away because you will not attain herd immunity, and you might get well today, tomorrow you get back sick, you pick it up again, and it just keeps going on. So the first step is to fix the health situation and get the economy back on track, and then we move from there.
That's how we end the first segment of Business with me, Charles Aite. Sport is up next with Gary L. Smith. To stay.
Thank you for staying with us on Joy News Prime, and I'm Gary L. Smith. Today, we've had a lot of trending topics from yesterday's PM Express. There was that on the taxes, there was that on sports betting as well. Now, Kojo Nkrumah and Casey Alatoforson were on with Evans Mensah, but this from the former Deputy Finance Minister has got Sporting Ghana talking.
To look at the gambling industry.
Yes, it's in the budget, yes.
It's in the budget.
They're doing reorganization.
You know where I have a problem with? You know why I have a problem with that one? Massive problem. My problem is simple. Ghana, today we are complaining that this very gambling is destroying our youth. I've read a number of articles on this. I would have thought government will come out with a policy to restrict gambling. But you need money to ban it. Look, to run a country is not all about money.
Really?
It's not all about money.
Yeah, but
you need to preserve society as well.
Yeah.
The youth of the society he's asking to preserve do not agree. Let me show you how they have taken umbrage at his comments. Let's go to Facebook and have a look at how angry these young people are. So we transcribe the comment and we put it on Facebook. as they say in Chi, Esewini. Now, let's look at the comments there as well, just to get an idea. 800 comments and 500 comments and 800 likes. Let's begin. Now, the Lotto kiosk ones, it be the older generation, it they destroy. The politician won't create jobs for the youth. They will only wait to tax and thinking about bans. Where are the jobs? Now, Ato Forson should come again. When their politicians pay money to the general public to vote for them, is that not gambling enough? Because they do not know for sure whether we will vote for them or not. Politics in itself, I say, is the worst form of gambles. Israel Jongban says, you are not fighting corruption, not fighting jobs for the youth, not gambling, but gambling that the youth survive on is what we are fighting. Just imagine NDC wins and he becomes finance minister. We are dead. Freddie Ahiabo says, I'm surprised the former deputy finance minister is making this suggestion if it's true. Finance is all about sourcing funds creatively, and if revenues can be generated through games, a smart finance minister will maximize this. As for the moral suasion, I think it's an individual affair. We need to elevate ourselves above the notion that there's a way we can regulate others' behavior and choices. So his point is well made. Let's get the final comments before we go to other things. Paya Saduma says, how many jobs did you create under your watch to consume 1/3 of unemployed youths and graduates? If he's reasoning based on moral grounds, he who comes to equity must come with clean hearts. And there are 500 comments like this. That's on my page. None of them are in support of KCL Ato Forson. Maybe we should explore this topic more to see if out there in the real world, people support the deputy finance minister. Anyway, that's our first story. Now, the Ghana Olympic Committee says they've learned lessons from the 2018 Commonwealth Games visa scandal and will put all measures in place to ensure such scandals do not occur again under their watch. Secretary General is Mohamed Sanoun. He's the Secretary General elect. Though rejected claims, they played no role in issuing visas to journalists.
2018, more than 65 Ghanaians were detained and deported from Australia by the country's immigration authorities on suspicions of visa fraud. The imposters were tasked to provide coverage for Team Ghana at the Commonwealth Games, which was held at Gold Coast in Australia, as they were issued visas as journalists from various media houses in Ghana. But the Australian authorities were not convinced by their reasons for traveling to the country because many of them did not carry the recommended equipment for the coverage of such sporting events. This development further led to the suspension from office of former Deputy Youth and Sports Minister Pius Enam Hajide and other government officials for their roles in what many described as an embarrassing act to the country. President Akufo-Addo reinstated Mr. Hajide and others after an investigation was conducted, a report of which is yet to be made public. Many have partly blamed the GOC officials who led the contingents to the Games. However, Secretary General-elect of the Ghana Olympic Committee, Mohamed Sanoun, who was then the chef de mission, says they were not responsible for the visa racketeering scandal.
Yeah, what happened in Australia is sad in the first place. But you see, there's been a lot of misinformation and misunderstandings. You know, I can put it without any fear of contradiction that the GOC had nothing to do with the journalists that had their problems with the Australian authorities, because I was there and I met the Australian authorities, and the issue was not to do with the athletes and the officials that I took to Australia. None of them had any issue in Australia. But, you know, so
it was damaging to the GOC?
It was damaging to the GOC to some extent, but not the full extent. Because if you understand the procedures that the Australian organizers engage, then we will be blaming the GOC for what happened. Because they had an open system. You know, we have very little to do about who to stop from going to Australia. You know, they dealt with the long list. They issue the visas for anyone in the long list, irrespective of the fact that the final decision, reducing the numbers and then forwarding it to them, had any impact on that.
Mr. Sanoun also promised Ghanaians that there will not be a repeat of the scandal in subsequent games.
What happened in Australia in terms of accreditation and all that has to be well scrutinized. You know, it has been my position that, look, we need to have a database of all the national federations at the GOC. We need to have documents on these various national federations, their constitution and all that.
Mo Sanun speaking there, and that's how we end the first part of Prime. For those of you on Joy Prime, is by Bud. Let me remind you that everything is on myjoyonline.com, and the headlines there still leading: budget cuts for legislature and judiciary won't be entertained. That's honorable backbone to the presidency. And then we have Senor Hosi of Boss saying that he has received death threats for his persistent criticism and fight against corruption. Two of the most popular stories there. Ghanaians to pay tax for COVID-19 free water enjoyed to fill the economic gap is also trending heavily on the site. And you can get details of.
All right, let's get on with Showbiz, Shawi and Becky. Hello, Bex.
Hello to you, Easy. We're still on the Grammy conversation, and the only person or the only Ghanaian who has gotten close, or like very, very close, is Rocky.
Was nominated.
Yeah, was nominated. He didn't win.
Rocky Downey.
Rocky Downey. He's been, talking about authenticity. That's the only way out, he says, and we have to pay. He said on the Drive Time show that we have to pay attention to our music and pay attention to the Grammys as well. That's the only way we can get to the Grammys.
For African music, but it's something that, it just does not happen overnight. People have been building this momentum for Nigeria to take advantage and grow, if even when you look at my nomination, it was the blueprint. I created a blueprint of an album, which was Branches of the Same Tree, which fused high life, gospel, reggae music, and great songwriting, which is really always the key. You don't jump on the train when it's already left the station. You have to create your own innovative ideas. And another thing was that when my album was nominated, if even anybody who's searching for the the video will see, what I tried to say was that this was actually opening the doors for Ghana. My intention was to pull Ghanaian music and also to show a blueprint and an idea that can allow our music to be able to impact on that level. Okay. So I think the only person that I think probably paid a great attention to it was Stonebwoy. By blueprint, I mean that it has to be innovative, it has to be representative of who you are, where you come from.
Rocky Downey there, but it looks like Shatta Wale is tired of the conversation around Grammys and presenters and all of these people giving pressure to the musicians to work harder. Yeah. He says that he has his own Grammys. Let's listen to him.
Okay, so he makes a point when he has a point when he says his properties are his Grammys. Except if you look at somebody who has a Grammy like Burna Boy, you would have all those properties.
Yes.
In addition to
his Grammy.
And he's actually going to make a lot more Grammys out of the Grammy.
Yes, I know. So what we need, according to a record producer and a musician, he's called Mike Quest. He's from the US. What we need is education in the music business.
Well, I think it's good that the conversation has sparked. I think it's good because it's about time that we realize that it's a serious topic. A lot of people don't even understand how Grammy works. Like, there's a process to go through. There's like the academy that you have to be a part of. There's submission processes. There's criteria to even just be considered. And it's not like Burna Boy, it was all very, very much planned and calculated. Like Diddy being the executive producer, he's part of the Grammy Academy, all these kind of things. I was part of the Grammy Academy when I was working with Beyonce. And it's a very, very stringent criteria. So before we even get to the type of music that you're even bringing to the table, if you don't understand these processes or you don't have a team that understand how to even make a submission for you, then it's a non-starter.
Okay.
I know the conversation will keep going until maybe a Ghanaian brings a Grammy home. But Yaya is saying that please help the you know, the other creatives. Don't just revolve your news around people who just, you know, want to be in the news, but take a very good look or closer look at their craft, like the talent in the industry. Yeah, right there. Do you agree with her? Yeah, we should.
Well, yeah, we should give them.
But that's what we do here on, you know, Joy News.
Well, that's why we're hearing her.
Yeah.
That's why we're putting her out, so everybody else can get to hear about her.
Please.
Yeah. Before you go, though, I just want to have this quick take on this Grammys thing.
Okay.
I don't think anybody should be so fixated on Grammys.
Grammys, okay.
As an artist, the most important thing is to make good music.
Do we make good music here in Ghana?
We have some good music, but you have to make good music that has a potential to be global.
Okay.
To be global music.
How do we get to that point? It's confusing.
No, it starts with the good music.
Okay.
Make really good music and make sure it reaches a worldwide audience. So yes, we have some good music, but it's local.
Okay.
And it's also because we're targeting the local market, but we should look international.
But they tell us that we have to start from home.
Yeah.
Right? So
no.
these musicians are trying to appeal to home before the global world.
No doubt about that.
Okay.
The one person I think is on the right track is Rihanna.
Okay. Okay.
She makes local music. Yeah.
African.
Some of us enjoy, and it's also enjoyed on the continent, and it's also appreciated globally. She just needs, I think, the platform to sell the music, so the music reaches really far.
Well,
that's it.
For Rihanna's music, I know that, I mean, it crosses the boundary of, you know. Well, we'll get there. We'll get there.
All right, thank you very much, Becky Bex, for bringing us.
Home. You guys, don't worry. I'm working on my voice.
All right, we're taking a break, but we have more news coming up. Stay tuned in. Eleven out of the 13 teenagers who drowned in the ocean at Apam last Sunday have been laid to rest at a joint funeral ceremony. Hundreds of people poured onto the streets of the town to say their final goodbyes to the children whilst wailing. Apart from the financial support, the government delegation led by Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture Development gave the families and parents of the victims. Central Regional Minister Justina Marigold Hassan is promising the training of lifeguards to be stationed at the various beaches in the region to help in rescue operations should such an incident recur. Richard Kojunyako attended the funeral and has come through with this report.
Gilbert Addison, born on 14th May 2007. He attended Methodist JHS, Apam. Gilbert Esando, born on 28th May 2004.
One after the other, the names of these teenagers were mentioned at the funeral service. Their tributes were read and it sparked uncontrollable tears. The schools they attended came to mark their register and subsequently cancelled their names from their records.
Enoch Ansa, John Atta. John Atta, where is John Atta? What has happened to him? What was the response? Madam, I learned he has passed on. Oh, then John Atta is no more with us.
This moment was unbearable for the families and the well-wishers here at the St. Luke Catholic Hospital at Apam, the ceremony venue. 11 caskets lined up here, draped with cloth of many colors. The pictures of these teenagers were put in front of each of the bodies. The ceremony was interrupted several times with family members and well-wishers defying the protocols and weeping on the caskets of the teenagers. It took the intervention of the security to bring the situation under control. Central Regional Minister Justina Marigold Hassan says she was not happy that she would have to start her tenure as the regional minister with such a heartbreaking ceremony. She promised the training of lifeguards at the various beaches. We are sad. We are badly hit. This is a shocker. All that we can say is that God knows best. The assemblies in the region would collaborate to train lifeguards for the various beaches. These people would help protect persons who go to the beach to swim. Should there be a drowning incident, they could quickly step in to rescue the affected persons, so we don't record higher numbers like this. Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture Development, Mavis Hawakumsin, led the government delegation to the ceremony and gave the cash support to the families.
10,000 Ghana cedi.
Government is giving 10,000 Ghana cedis to each affected family. To the parents, they are giving 10,000 Ghana cedis. And the kids who survived, we are giving 5,000 Ghana cedis. The ceremony is over and the caskets have been lifted. The amount of tears quadrupled. At the cemetery are 11 graves. The crowd milled through to say their final wishes and goodbyes. Gradually, the caskets were lowered into the graves, one after the other. Hope has now met reality, and it has now dawned on the schoolmates of the teenagers that their friends were gone. The graves are now being covered with sand, and the people here who nurse some hopes that at least there could be some miracle have already given up. They are retreating to their various homes. Reporting for Joy News, my name is Richard Kwejenyakon from Cape Coast.
Government is taking yet another bold step to end the burning of electronic waste in the country with a handover of a 5-acre land for the building of a facility that will better handle such waste. The burning of electronic waste in Ghana has been a problem for decades now, causing both human and environmental pollution. The yet-to-be-built facility will be called a handing over center, where scrap dealers will send the electronic waste for safe recycling and disposal. Judith Awuchitando has more on this report.
In 2018, the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation began an e-waste recycling project at the Abublushi market to ensure sound disposal, collection and recycling of electronic waste picked up by scrap dealers in Accra. The ministry promised to further build and hand over a center where scrap dealers would bring their collected e-waste materials in exchange for some incentives, including money. A 5-acre land situated at the Ghana Atomic Energy Commission to be used for the construction of a 1,500-meter square storage facility for defined e-waste materials has been released by the ministry. Minister for Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, Dr. Kweku Ifriye, says this is a big step towards the national e-waste recycling agenda.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, today's ceremony is very significant since it represents a huge practical step towards our effort in solving the country's current challenges. Within the e-waste sector, that is the indiscriminate burning and disposal of e-waste. This groundbreaking event is another example of the long-standing and productive partnership between the government of Ghana and the Federal Republic of Germany.
The €10 million project aims at formalizing the e-waste business and ensuring its safe recycling and disposal. Chief Director of MESTI, Cynthia Sari Bediako, says essential elements like copper can be retrieved from these waste materials.
When we recycle, we properly dismantle the parts and take the value. For example, the copper that we want, when you take copper, it can be melted into all kinds of things that could be used. And the same thing could be redone into a fresh cable.
So far, the ministry has bought 43 tons of cables, which initially would have been burnt, causing environmental pollution. Madam Bediako explained that education is still ongoing to involve more scrap dealers in the project.
In terms of Accra, where the head office, if I should call it that way, of the action almost everybody there knows. And it is that reason why we've added a little in terms of buying back. What they would have gotten if they were getting 1 cedi, we are buying at 1 cedi 10 pesos. So that there's no reason why you'd want to go and do what we were doing before. And we are dealing with the association, their members, and we have their leaders and the entire association where they are doing it. And it's not only that, there are other things that they benefit by being part of the association and in this project.
As government makes gradual progress towards the eradication of e-waste burning in Ghana, it is calling on all and sundry to actively participate in the agenda. Judith Awachretando, Joy News.
There are 2 monuments in the Western Regional Capital tourists are most likely to introduce to. One of them is a statue of a fetish priest known as Konfase, and the other a fish, and together serve as a point of convergence for almost every occasion in the town. Today in our Ghana Man series, correspondent Inathaila Kwanta brings us the history and meaning of these age-old monuments.
Welcome to Sekunde, the administrative capital of the Western region. Sekunde has a lot to offer in terms of culture. For our Ghana Man series, I will take you to one particular spot called Konfuase. The place for years has become the center of attraction because of the popular Yesu Asor, a festival celebrated by the people of Sekunde during Easter. Situated at the center of Sekunde and fence is this gigantic priest look-alike statue with feathers around his head, a piece of cloth around his waist, holding 2 horse whisks, 4 white round band lies at both legs, 1 leg lifted and the other down. For years, people have called it Konfo, literally meaning a traditional Ghanaian priest, and where it is situated, Konfuase. But is this what it means?
The name Konfuase is a corrupted name for the original name of the place, meaning Kundum Dances Square. And I repeat, Kundum Dances Square. But because the image looked like a fetish priest dancing, and then when the short history was erected at the place, people did not bother to read it. And so those of us who don't know anything about Kundum dancing started calling the image Konfo, Konfo, Konfo. That's why we have the Konfase, but it is not Konfase, it is Kundum Dance Square.
History has it that in the year 1947, the then DCE for STMA, Major Kobna, built it for the community to symbolize the Kundum dance, which is part of the Kundum festival celebrated by the Ahantes and Inzimes. 65 years Samuel Tano was just about 8 years when the momentum was built. He narrates how it was raised.
This place has been coded to stop people from coming to that area, because before it was used, there was a pipe, free pipe at that same place. People used to fetch water there, but later they stopped people from using that pipe, and it was coded. The word is coded. Okay, so they stopped people from coming there. Later, when they opened the codings, we saw this man standing there, like that Konfo.
How did its original meaning and symbol become misplaced?
This is a symbol to show the tradition of the Ahantes, especially those in Sekendi, that we don't dance Adwa, we don't dance Palogo, we don't dance Abaja, we don't dance Bobobo, we dance Kundum.
To a visitor to Sekunde, what he or she sees is a Konfo, and therefore going to that area was easily referred to as Konfo Ase. Samuel Tano, however, thinks residents and travelers have just not taken a critical look at the structure to differentiate between a priest and the statues of the dancer.
The statue is in the picture of a Kundum dancer. The dressing is what the Kundum dancers use to dance that Kundum. But it is almost similar to a kung fu, a priest. That is why people used to call it kung fu. But when you look at it perfectly or well, you look at it very well, and if you know kung fu and you see a kundum dancer, you may see a little difference between the kung fu and the kundum dancer.
In recent times, conscious attempts have been made by some indigents of Sekunde to correct the historical mistake by referring to the area as Kundum Square, for the present generation to know that the statue is indeed depicts a Kundum dancer and not a Kung Fu. Enamase is another sport. Was back in the days the Independence Square, a sight to behold, especially at night. Those born during the independence describe it as small London. Samuel Mensah is secretary to the Sekunde Queen Mother.
You know, you have the beach here. That is where traditionally all our people get their income from. And that is the place to this beach is situated. So we just wanted to erect that to tell you that most of our income comes from the beach. And it is true. The catching, sales, smoking, and selling of fish. Originally, that place was called Independence Square, or Independence Circle.
Names can be very deceptive, so the next time you hear of any name, being it a place, person, or thing, just find out the meaning and history. For Joy News, in Athalia Kwanzaa, Sekunde.
Now, one of the worst nightmares of a musician is to have his audience taken away. And with COVID-19 in the mix, this predicament has been numerous, with many high-profile artists already reeling from the implications in their pockets. For a street artist like Abebio, a struggling performer who lost his place in a band, the situation couldn't be more dire. Joy News' Kenneth Awoche Dakung has more on how the 55-year-old is innovating in order to stay afloat on the closed beaches of Accra.
One trip, and we still got time to rock, making one step. Yeah, JB is my name. J is John, B is Wafo, and back again, Abebio. JB Abebio. So JB back again. Abebio, you know what Abebio means? Yeah. In the Akan language, it is something that's come back again.
For Abebio, it was a pregnant package of pandemics that was triggered by Ghana's first 2 cases of the novel coronavirus. He was part of a band where he made a decent living until COVID-19 hit.
It did affect us because I played in the band too as well. And then all the clubs are closed, all the bars are closed, you know. The hospitality business, took badly hit.
How did you cope?
How did I cope? Well, a little savings you have and 1 or 2 things, but then, how did I cope? Well, I depended on my savings, yes. And some friends as well. I must be grateful for what they did. Yeah.
A year down the line, the 55-year-old has been left with no option than to look internally if he is to find a ray of hope and attempt to make the best out of 2021.
There are times I can stay here till about 2 a.m., 3 a.m., listening to the air and then listening to the songs in the air and trying to finish some songs. So yes, you have some few friends you can call you to come and play for them, or you just walk into the people and then you play and let them appreciate what you're doing, and then they are.
I spotted him alone on a bench at the La Beach in Accra, tuning his guitar chords with the help of an application on his Android phone, placed on a table off of which revelers would have been drinking if the world were in normal times. While listening closely to the tone that best suits his rehearsal, someone made a request for him to perform at a small fee. This has been his source of survival for the past few months because of post-COVID-19 restrictions imposed on public gatherings. At the heart of his chosen path is his love for the arts despite the monetary challenges and the COVID-19 pandemic. Abebiu says he will never be swayed by these impediments.
Why haven't you dropped your talent?
Why should I drop my talent? I'll be faithful and grateful to God who gave me the talent. Irrespective of the distance I have to complete, Sally, I have to reach there. Why should I drop my talent? I'll be the greatest coward. I'll be the greatest weak heart to drop my talent. Wow! Sally God. I must reach my destination, Rasta. Which is my message across to the people to open their minds and their eyes. Yeah, that we can, we know we're in the chains, but we have chains all over our feet black. It hurts.
In a country with a national retirement age of 60, coupled with a curfew period of 20 and 35 years as the average peak season for local musicians, Abebiu may be well into retirement stages for his profession, but he has no plans of dropping his passion anytime soon. With the rollout of vaccines in Ghana and scientists working around the clock to find a cure, Back Again can only hope for the world's return to normalcy to essentially help his dream inch close to fruition.
The whole world is envisioning, waiting, I'm craving for the post-COVID, whereby things will normalize.
Kenneth Owochidako for Joy News.
We're taking a break here now. We're bringing you more business and then more sports.
Welcome to business. While government hopes to meet its revenue target, it has to worry about our debt situation. That's why the 2021 budget has placed limits on the amount of money that government can borrow. The move is part of efforts to check the country's rising debt stock. George Rafi has been going through the document and gives us more.
What we've tried to do is juxtapose consolidation or fiscal prudence or discipline against stimulus, because you need the stimulus to be able to lift yourself out of essentially a recession, which is what we find ourselves in. But at the same time, you have a situation where you have elevated debt levels, and you have, because you had to borrow so much last year, that you also you can't afford to spend excessively. So the challenge is to identify real growth areas, oriented areas, and target your investments, which is what we are trying to do through the Ghana Cares program, and also try and bring the private sector along. And that's why, if it's a 100 billion package, we are asking the private sector to support with foreign direct investments and their investment into this opportunity for up to the tune of 70 billion, and government to come up with a 30 billion. So it is a shared partnership. It is a way for us to be able to, pull the economy out of a recession with a fiscal stimulus, but really target on growth areas. Something like real estate, housing, construction really creates a lot of jobs, creates a lot of activity, is infrastructure oriented, and that is an area that we really want to support. We're setting up the development bank. We'll capitalize the development bank. The development bank will in turn identify and support businesses with cheaper loans, like any other big development bank you see, like IFC and so forth, who are able to borrow at AAA rated levels and lend at much cheaper rates than you see your typical commercial banks lending at. So these are some of the areas that we believe that if we can invest in, we can provide the stimulus to lift this economy back out, and the productivity will be there. But first,
let's now hear from the Information Minister, Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, on steps the government is taking to address the rise in debt stock. He spoke on PM Express early on.
When we start the debate, we'll have an opportunity to answer those questions, to show to them the fiscal path that has been designed. 11% last year, we want to come to about 9% this year, 7%, get us back to 5%. How do we do that? We have to shore up national revenues and we have to cut expenses. You will notice from the fiscal tables that there are some expenditure lines that have actually seen a drastic cut between what was allocated last year and what has even been allocated this year. Because that discipline must come for us to go there. And then in the interim, some qualitative expansion, putting money into areas that matter. So for example, food security, support or stimulus to business and to workers, strengthening the healthcare system, Agenda 111. So if you look at the Ghana Cares program, all of these things are dealt with in the Ghana Cares program, as well as broadly revitalizing and transforming the Ghanaian economy between now and 2023 using digitization and other matters.
So that's where the money is going to go.
In those and other areas. We're going to answer the question of debt sustainability because, listen, and Evans, it is real. If we don't get our debt back to sustainable levels, we will get into a crisis. And that is why a responsible government must take those actions now and get us back on a fiscally healthy.
Now, the Ghana Association of Bankers says that the new tax on the earnings before tax payment is misplaced. Government is introducing a financial sector cleanup levy of 5% on profit before tax. This is to help draw outstanding commitment in the sector. But according to the association, this levy is counterproductive and can affect the ability of banks to attract the needed capital in the post-COVID-19 era. Of course, John Ewa is Chief Executive of the Ghana Association of Bankers.
As a popular stand as financial institutions to take is for banks to have closed their lending taps. But what did banks do during the pandemic? We basically closed our ranks and said this is the time for us to stay true to our customers. This is the time to assist with the national economic recovery such that the health pandemic did not metamorphose into significant economic pandemic as well. And that is why during the crisis, we came down in response to the regulatory measures announced by the Bank of Ghana, came down on our lending rates from between 150 basis points to 350 basis points. During the crisis, we also made sure that the wheels of the country was grinding by availing credit in excess of 14.9 billion Ghana cedis in new credit during the dependency of the pandemic. We know that the banking sector should be at the forefront of any economic recovery process post-COVID. And therefore, we need all the help we can get, all the capital we can muster to be able to provide the ammunition to the productive sectors to get us out of the quagmire we find ourselves in as a country because of course, the negative impact of the pandemic. So we do not think this is the time to layer the banking system with taxes, and particularly for the rationale that was given or has been given for the reason behind the new taxes that banks are supposed to be bearing. We do not think the rationale is justified. That yes, we believe that the banking sector debt cleanup should be taken care of, but we believe and a strong conviction that assignment, the beneficiaries have been a country Ghana, the economy Ghana, industries and sectors within Ghana, people and persons in the country. And therefore, if we are seeking to address that gap, it should be levied across board so that we all pay a little piece of it, and together we can then help to address it. But
Now, the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders has charged the Transport Ministry to be strict on operations at the port with regards to shipping lines. The call comes after a series of engagements between the Institute and the Ghana Shippers Authority halted a proposed increment in charges at the port. Edward Akron is president of the Institute.
Wrote to the minister on that and several other issues which we think are long-standing have to be reached. The Minister of Transport. And so it's not just those charges, but then also a whole lot of other issues that we thought were, long-standing, had to be resolved. And so we did that. The minister, was very magnanimous, called us to the table and reminded the shipping lines of the duty. Subsequently, we have seen a letter that he wrote, through the Ghana Shippers Authority, that any increment that they intended to do, they were supposed to go and sit with the Ghana Shippers Authority and negotiate that stand. We are very much happy about that, but we didn't, sit on our oars because we believe this has happened severally and nothing had been done. So subsequently, we wrote to the shipping lines due to the notices that they had placed, in the newspapers and sent to us also, because most of these had timelines which were due. So we had to write to them to remind them of the obligation and what the minister's directive was that they had to go and sit with the shipping, the Ghana Shippers Authority. So we are now looking out to see if, they do this or they go ahead to do the increases as they, purported. Now, if that happens, then we might have to take some action.
Well, 30 needy but brilliant students from communities in the catchment of the Chirano Gold Mine Limited have received scholarships to further their education. Officials of the company say they have invested 120,000 Ghana cedis to economically empower the mining communities through STEM education. Of course, that's how we end this edition of Business. Coming up next is Sports with Gary L. Smith. Do stay.
Thank you for staying with us on the second batch of sports. I'm Gary L. Smith, and the president of the Ghana Football Association, Ketu Kraku, says his association's decision to partner the Sports Writers Association of Ghana to build the capacity of journalists is not to gag the sports media. According to him, this is a move to help the FA promote their products.
The football governing body and the Sports Writers Association of Ghana reached an agreement to provide capacity building for members of the Inke fraternity. The event, which was held on Tuesday at the Accra Metropolitan Conference Room, was graced by various contributors in the football industry. President of the Ghana Football Association, Ket Okreku, told the media the decision of the GFA to partner SWAC in this program is to help the media enhance the products of the Football Association.
In any field or any industry you find yourself, you have to go for it. So we thought that having this engagement with the media obviously will add value to what we do at the FA. Also add value to what the media does, and for which reason we never said no at the given opportunity. So this will be one of the many that we have on our agenda. The one for the Northern Zone will also happen soon, and then beyond that we'll continue to engage. We already know about the media press strategy by the Football Association, which we will continue to pursue. So it's very important for us to have the opportunity always to exchange ideas and to be together, because I say this all the time, that the media and football must always have what we call a sexy relationship.
Many have accused the GFA of constructive attempts to gag the media from criticizing their way of leadership and the management of football in the country. However, President of the Sports Writers Association of Ghana, Kwabena Yeboah, disagrees with those claims.
Let me put it on record that when my administration took over SWAC, if you remember candidly, I did indicate that we're not going to be defined by just honoring sportsmen and sportswomen, but to build the capacity of sports journalists. And we're doing this over the period. This is only to complement our efforts. And I'm just wondering how, in this day and age, the FA is capable of gagging the media. As sports journalists, once you lose your integrity, you are finished as journalists. And I don't think the FA can even succeed in doing that, even if that is the agenda. I don't think that is the agenda of the FA at all. The FA will set out to gag the media. It is absolutely impossible.
The GFA and SWAC would organize another capacity building for sports journalists in the northern part of the country in the coming days.
And speaking of officials, Chief Executive Officer of Asante Kotoko, Nanaya Amponsa, was in the studios of our sister station Adom TV today. He's confident that his team will win the Ghana Premier League title this season. Now, he was on Fire for Fire, the popular program on Asempa and Adom TV, and the 2019 GFA presidential candidate said the performance of the team away from home shows they are a better side and will end the season as champions.
Definitely, beat Major League, you know. As far as I'm concerned, where I see it, I see us doing that? Because the challenges are filming in our the challenges are Kotoko film, playing away from home. The entire first round, Ayabo, and going forward is going to continue for a while. You bought one match, or what we call our home. The other team will go through the same thing. Kim Pfizer, you see where they are. What do I say? You bought one, what if you away record?
Yeah, I'm Gary Al Smith. That's the sport for now. Thank you for your time.
Right, so that'll be it for the bulletin for this evening. Before I go, though, a quick look at our top stories, or the top stories of My Joy Online, and the budget cuts for legislature. Judiciary won't be entertained. That's the Speaker of Parliament, Aaron Bagwin, to the presidency. Also, I received death threats for my persistent criticism in fight against corruption. Senor Hosi says so. And then Ghanaians to pay tax for COVID-19 free water enjoyed to fill economic gap. That's Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah. And then tension brewing between La Youth and Ghana Armed Forces over land issues. So you can go onto myjoyonline.com for details of those stories. I'm Israel Lai. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good evening. PM Express is up next with Evan Smith.